How's it going, guys? I hope you're all having a fantastic day. For today's build, we have another keyboard. This is the GK61 Optical mechanical keyboard. At around 35 USD shipped, this thing is an absolute bargain. Now yes, I have done a video on one of these before, my daily driver, but that was more of a complete build, and this time I wanted to do some modifications to turn this cheap board into something really nice. Now honestly, straight out of the box, it's fine. The switches are smooth and the sound isn't too bad, but if we put in a little bit of time and effort, it can make a big difference, and in my opinion is well worth the hour or so of work. So what I'm going to need for today's build is everything that comes in the box, as well as a switch opener, some lube, I'm using Krytox 205, and a small brush to apply it to the switches, some 65-gram springs, some foam to dampen the sound as most of the case is hollow, and some keycaps of your choosing. I went with some SA Profile PBT keycaps. So let's go over the costs quickly. The keyboard cost around 35 USD shipped. The lube was about $6, the springs another $4 to $5, the foam was free, and the keycaps were around about 13 USD. So for a total build cost of around about 58 USD, including all the shipping. Now that all the keycaps are off, I'm going to use the switch puller and remove the switches. Now let's remove the screws and take out the plate and PCB. Now because this is an optical keyboard, the underside of the PCB is very bare, meaning the foam should rest on it flat and increase the sound dampening properties. Now that the foam is cut, I'll put the PCB and plate back on. Let's move on to the switches. Definitely the most time-intensive part of this project. First, I'll open up the switches and remove the 45-gram springs. Then I will lube the stems and the base of the switch and put the new 65-gram spring in. Now when it comes to lubing mechanical switches, less is more. If you put too much on, it will ruin the feel of the switch. They'll become gummy, they'll be hard to type on, and it will just ruin them. So for the best results, use the lube sparingly. And finally, that is the switches done. Now let's put them back in. And with that done, let's try out the new keycaps. So what are my thoughts? I've been using an optical keyboard for the last 3 months as my daily driver, and honestly, I love it. If you're someone who uses linear switches and want the absolute smoothest switches, they're pretty hard to beat. For example, I have some creams and some opticals. Both are properly lubed, and honestly, the opticals are much smoother. Simply because of the design of the opticals, they are inherently smoother than standard mechanical switches. So it all comes down to personal preference. So let's move on to the sound test. So here it is, the finished build. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please remember to subscribe if you haven't already, leave a like and a comment of something you would like to see done in a future build. Have a good one, guys. I see you've made it to the end. Why don't you subscribe and check out some of our other builds? Go on, what are you waiting for?